recovering from this catastrophe which occurred in the country yesterday. We have significant new details to report. Late this afternoon in Lower Manhattan, you heard just a few minutes ago, those of you who are on the full network, about the remaining portions of the South Tower at the World Trade Center coming down. This caused a serious measure of concern, one could add panic, in certain parts of southern New York because people did not understand completely what was happening. But what you're looking at here is the evacuation of the rescue workers today, this afternoon, in that particular area. Now, the White House spokesman Ari Fleischer has said today that the White House and Air Force One were also targets. We'll investigate that. ABC News has learned that investigators believe they've identified all 12 of the people who hijacked the 4 planes. And several people in Florida and in the Boston area have been detained and certainly questioned in connection with the attacks. At the Pentagon today, this was a very moving scene this afternoon. Rescue workers unfurled a large American flag from the roof of the building, their way, in part, we think, of welcoming President Bush, who paid a visit to this afternoon. We'll have that. The President, in a meeting of his cabinet this morning, said the U.S. was committed to a monumental struggle of good versus evil, and it is not yet clear how the U.S. is going to respond or against whom. As you have seen repeatedly throughout the day, a cloud still hangs over Lower Manhattan tonight, just south of our newsroom here. A few people have been pulled from the rubble that was the World Trade Center. The news from there, we have to tell you, you can look at it and understand, is very grim indeed. We went to the scene today, and with hope, one doctor told us, and he came out with a feeling of despair. Many people are believed dead. Nobody wants to put a number on it. We know how many people worked in the area. We do know that the numbers at the Pentagon are lower than certainly were estimated in the public arena yesterday, and that is as far as we got with those numbers, but we'll come back to them. Throughout the day, we have been getting the first reasonable clues as the result of the investigation as to who may have been responsible. So we're going to start this World News Tonight with a report from ABC's Brian Ross.
Peter, the investigation is moving with great speed, with new developments even as we speak at this hour. FBI agents are dusting for prints at the Dulles airport. They've carried out a search warrant at a boarding house in Hollywood, Florida. And in Germany, police in Hamburg are active tonight. From Boston to Florida, heavily armed FBI agents and local police moved quickly and forcefully today to investigate what the Attorney General called acts of war.
The Department of Justice has undertaken perhaps the most massive and intensive investigation ever conducted in America.
As at this hotel in Boston, agents were looking for evidence of the terrorist movements and seeking to unravel what was an elaborate network that operated undetected for more than a year before yesterday's coordinated attacks.
The 4 planes were hijacked by between 3 and 6 individuals per plane, using knives and box cutters, and in some cases making bomb threats.
Starting last night, the FBI seized a car left at the Boston airport that led them to the identity of one of the estimated 12 terrorist hijackers, an Egyptian national by the name of Mohammed Atta.
We also have identified through a number of leads, principally at the cities of origin, a number of individuals whom we believe may have had something to do with the hijackings, and we are pursuing those leads aggressively.
By this morning, agents were at a small airport in Venice, Florida, where Atta and an accomplice took flying lessons and earned private pilot's licenses in the summer of 2000. A fellow student said the two had lots of money and kept to themselves.
They were talking about flying for a private company, like rich man and stuff like that.
The 2 men stayed at a nearby house where they were remembered as rude and unlikable.
Very sarcastic, and it gave me the impression that they didn't really care that highly for ladies or whoever, and that's about it.
Also today, authorities were tracking another set of 6 hijackers who were believed to have entered the country from Canada at a small border crossing in Jackman, Maine. The men are then believed to have flown into Boston on commuter flights yesterday morning from Bangor and Portland, Maine, with the thought of clearing security at the smaller airports instead of Boston.
Each one was carrying some type of small shoulder bag, not a real bulky one, but something small, both kind of dark-complected, dark hair.
Peter, there are dozens of leads FBI agents are working on. No one has been arrested, but several people have been detained for questioning. By one estimate, as many as 50 people may have been involved in helping provide the network for the terrorists to operate in this country over the last year. Peter.
Thank you very much, Brian Ross, who's been working on the investigation.